This might just be the best branded Despia deck out there right now. So as you know, we started off with the unboxing of the Alba Strike structure deck. Then we put 3 of them together to have a slightly better deck. Now we are going to go for a full power incredible deck profile for the deck, and then finally I'll also make a budget variant after this video. If that's interesting to you, be sure to subscribe to this channel. Shout out to Noman Irfan for this particular deck. He's a multi-regional topping Yu-Gi-Oh player, so of course it's not just a YouTuber rando giving you this list, and this is actually really spicy. It is branded Adventurer Hero Despia. And when I say hero, I'm not talking about Fusion Destiny and that's it. We are playing a little bit more of a hero engine in this one, and it's not a casual deck. This is actually really powerful spice in here. So for the list, of course, let's start with the Adventure engine. This is super typical. 3 Water Enchantress, 3 Rite of Aramesir, 1 Draco Back, 1 Fateful Adventure, 1 Wandering Griffin Rider, and 1 Foolish Burial. This engine is just broken. I'm sorry. You have to run it in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Until they hit it. Beyond, of course, just starting off all your combos with a crazy negate, it can also instantly make Verte by linking the token off into Link Spider. Next, let's go over the Despia branded part of the engine. We have 2 Aluber, 2 Tragedy, 1 Ad Libitum, 2 Fallen of Albaz, 1 Hex Sealed Fusion Light, 3 Branded Fusion, 3 branded Opening, and 2 branded in red. We only play 2 Aluber because 3 can get pretty bricky. As you know or don't know, Rite of Aramesir makes it so you can't use normal summon effects, and that means Aluber is basically worthless. We only play 2 Tragedy because there's multiple ways to send it to the graveyard anyway. The 1 Despia Adlib is of course an incredible card. It lets you bring back Mirror Fusion after being used, and it can even bring back a DPE if it was gotten rid of the field without triggering his recursion effect. The Hex Sealed lets you go into Dragoon, but it can also be a substitute for Albaz. I hope 3 Opening and 3 Fusion are like self-explanatory, and then branded in red at 2 is pretty standard because 3 can be bricky. Now for the next engine, here is where we start with a hero engine, and of course every hero deck these days starts with these. We have 2 Fusion Destiny, 1 Dasher, and 1 Celestial. Super typical. DPE is an incredible card, and of course it's a fusion, which makes it even better in a deck like this. However, now we get into the slightly spicier part of the hero engine. We have 3 Neos Fusion, 1 Elemental Hero Neos, and then a Fairy Tale Snow and a Token Collector. Now you might be thinking, why the hell would you play Neos Fusion? Well, here goes. Neos Fusion is essentially a Foolish Burial, but that makes a body. You're usually gonna use this as the very last play in your turn, and then it basically generates a body that can turn into a Chimera. Guardian Chimera being, of course, the most powerful thing in here. Now, the most important part of this whole play is that it can send a level 4 or lower to then create Brave Neos, giving us access to some of the most insane cards in the game, like Fairy Tale Snow. So Token Collector is the first target. Basically, if you draw it, it's a really solid hand trap. It counters the Brave engine, which is also huge. And you can also stop Auroradon decks, like I believe B.A.H.D and some other ones, you know, the one that just goes Hulk into Auroradon, into a bunch of synchro plays. Token Collector just says nope. It can also send Fairy Tale Snow, which is of course again a really busted card that is now at 1. And because you use Neos Fusion, you actually have 3 extra cards in your graveyard to banish off the snow. Tragedy lets you search an Aluber or an Adlib. Neos Fusion, unlike the whole Water Enchantress package, actually doesn't lock you out of your normal summon. So you basically have a 1-card Guardian Chimera right here. Here's how that plays out. You start by activating a Neos Fusion. You send Despia Tragedy and Elemental Hero Neos. You summon Brave Neos. Despia Tragedy adds Aluber. You normal summon Aluber, because Neos Fusion did not lock you out of that. Aluber adds Branded in red. Now you can set Branded in red and pass to your opponent. You can activate Branded in red and add back the Tragedy. Now you can fuse Tragedy with Brave Neos and with Aluber to make a Guardian Chimera. Then Chainlink 1, Guardian Chimera, destroy 2 cards and draw 1 card. Chainlink 2, Tragedy, to add Aluber, which can then give you a Branded Fusion on your turn. Now beyond the targets you see in the current list, we actually have a few more really solid targets that you may want to consider depending on your your local meta or something along those lines. If you send Gokipole, you can actually add Retaliating Sea, which is really good in the mirror. You can send a Shaddoll Hedgehog to add a Shaddoll Dragon, so then Branded in red can summon a Lubellion, which then leads to a Winda on your opponent's turn. The reason you would play Dragon over Beast is because you can also use Neos Fusion to send Dragon to then pop a back row. Another solid target would be sending Necroworld Banshee, and this way you can activate Zombie World, which also locks out certain decks like Fluanderies. I believe we also saw in the YCS top list, I think Cody Angelov running Zombie World and Necroworld Banshee in his side, so maybe that's an interesting pick right now. You could also side a Rainbow Neos and a Rainbow Dark Dragon for going second. That's especially spicy. I'm a big fan of the Phantom Darkness set, so getting to use that would be insane. Pero Kerberos and Tackle Crusader would also be cool to out certain things. Now here's a few little more details about Neos Fusion that might come up sometimes. This is actually not considered a fusion summon, so it gets around non-fusion area if people want to side that or because they're afraid of the deck right now. You can turn a Brave token into a Link Spider to special summon an Elemental Hero Neos from your hand. Then you can Super Poly your opponent's DPE and your Elemental Hero Neos to make your own DPE. You could also play the Aqua Dolphin Fusion to rip a card from the opponent's hand. Brave Neos can also search another Neos Fusion, which can then be discard fodder for Super Poly or something along those lines. As well as, of course, being a discard fodder for Branded Opening. So enough about the incredible Neos Fusion engine. I hope by now you're in love with it. I expect some buyouts and some craziness. Again, big ups to Nomen Irfan for this particular idea. For the rest of the list, we are running one Magician's Soul and one Illusion of Chaos. Now, Nomen did say that he would like to run more of this, but that finding room is just very, very hard. If you know or don't know, Magician's Souls is essentially an incredible card to pair with the whole Water Enchantress, Rite of Emissary thing, because you usually end with 2 spells on board, being Fateful Adventure and Draco back, which you can then get rid of and draw 2 new cards. Either you're drawing a bunch of cards, which makes you just plus like crazy, or that baits out an Ash, which can also be relevant because you don't necessarily want your branded cards to get ashed. Of course, you also have a Griffin for that, but hey, the more interruption, the better. Next, we have 3 Pot of Prosperity, because it's still really solid to look deeper through the deck than you normally can. And then we have a billion hand traps. We have Ash, 3 of course, really good this format going forward. You want to be able to stop the branded cards from going off. 3 Ghost Ogre, because everyone is still playing Adventure Engine. 3 Ghost Bell, 3 Effect Veiler, 3 Imperm, just all the solid hand traps out there. And of course, Veiler is also a light. And then finally, anti-hand traps. We have 3 Crossout Designator and 1 Called By. Luckily, we have so many hand traps, even Token Collector if you think about it. So it's really nice we can just cross out virtually anything. Next, we have Verte, of course, it's the fusion deck. We have a Link Spider, we've already been talking about it a little bit. We have our DPE, because of course we're running the DPE engine. We have our Brave Neos for our Neos fusion engine. And then we have all the Branded and Despia, whatever the hell fusions that we all know by now. Of course, I'll put them all up here. Then we have 1 Dragoon, because yes, this deck can make it despite not running Red Eyes Fusion or the other bricks. And 2 a Guardian Chimera, the crazy fusion that this deck really wants to be using, sometimes multiple times even. So that is the deck. It's overall pretty standard. The only place where it really goes completely off the deep end compared to other typical decks is really that whole Neos package. I hope you found this very interesting. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Again, shout out to Nomen, and I will see you soon. Ciao.